I'm having a serious case of deja vu here. This TV is bringing back memories from last August when I reviewed the Hisense H9G. So, does this replacement model bring anything new to the game, or is it more of the same? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and straight out of the gate, I want to make a correction from my unboxing video for this TV. I mistakenly said that this Hisense U8G replaced the H8G. That is incorrect. It replaces the H9G. Sorry about that. One of the disadvantages of getting this TV before anyone else, before it was even announced, is that I had limited information to start. Fortunately, Hisense has filled me in. Now, that deja vu comment I just made has a lot to do with brightness and black levels, but spoiler alert, this TV behaves very differently to the H9G. And for the most part, that's a very good thing. We'll get into peak brightness measurements, take a look at how the backlight is behaving and black levels, dig into color accuracy and customizations to the picture quality, and see if it all adds up to a TV you will want to buy. Before I dive in though, this 65-inch model is coming out at $1,300. That's a bit more than the $950 or so that the H9G came out for. So my question for you is, what does this TV need to do in order to justify the added expense for you? Let me know about that in the comments so we can talk about it. And of course, please click like and subscribe because it's really helping us grow and bring you more great videos. And as always, shopping links in the description for the products we cover in our videos in case you want to help us that way. Thanks a big bunch. Now, let's go. So let's start with this ULED moniker because I think that could be confusing for some folks. To be clear, this is a quantum dot TV, so it could just as easily be called a QLED TV. Hisense just has its own branding thing going on, so this TV is comparable to other LED backlit QLEDs on the market. And as long as we're talking about the backlight, let's talk peak brightness. This TV, just like the H9G, outperforms its claims, at least this model does. Hisense has 1,500 nits stamped right on the box for this U8G, just like the H9G had 1,000 nits stamped on the box. I'll get to the nit numbers in a moment, but I did want to point out two improvements that Hisense made over last year, almost as if they watched my H9G video and said, right, we're fixing that. So unlike last year, I was able to make individual 2-point white balance adjustments for SDR and HDR, which is a big help toward color accuracy. Also, where the H9G was heavy on the blue in the white balance, this TV heads in the opposite direction. I pulled the red and green back a little bit and got one of the best white balance measurements I've ever seen, certainly better than any sub $2,000 TV I've worked on. And those measurements were great for both SDR and HDR. So in SDR, after some adjustments, I measured just over 700 nits peak, which is just intense. Switching to HDR, I got just over 1,900 nits after adjustments, and it was more like 2,100 before I shifted the white balance. That's pretty incredible. That puts this TV's brightness for HDR right up against the Samsung QN90A, which is a substantially more expensive TV. Those kind of brightness numbers are great, but you also want to see solid black levels, and the good news here is that the U8G's black levels are as impressive as the H9G's were, which is to say there is minimal blooming on axis and you get deep inky blacks where you're supposed to. The level of detail on this TV is also very impressive. The U8G resolves fine detail with minimal artifacting, passing most of our stress tests with ease. Very rarely do we see any moire or screen door effect on this TV. Also, this particular sample has a pretty clean LCD panel. I'm not seeing much splotchiness or even much vignetting in the corners. As for color, it's kind of a mixed bag. Bright colors look fantastic. Well saturated, but not oversaturated. Very rich, nice color gamut coverage. Low luminance colors seem to struggle though. I could see it in the measurements. The dimmer the color, the more there was some shift to the color. You don't notice this often when viewing real content, but there were some times when the image did seem to have some darker areas which looked like a panel uniformity issue, but actually seems to do with the backlight performance. Again, I don't see a lot, but it has popped up a few times with some of the content I've watched. Mostly I see it when I'm watching something that fades in going from dark to bright, and while color banding is not a problem for brighter images, it can be for dimmer ones, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, the backlight is very quick to respond. The TV has no problem with slowly dimming or brightening backlight response as we've seen from some other TVs this year. So when something goes black, it goes black very quickly, and when something lights up, it brightens up quickly. Now, setting aside all of the objective measurements and just sitting back and watching this TV, it's hard not to be impressed if you're sitting right in front of it. Unfortunately, the U8G, like so many LCD-based TVs, shows its backlight quite a bit off axis. Blacks turn milky and you can see a bit of halo around bright objects, but viewed dead on, this TV is a real dazzler. That super high contrast is reminiscent of OLED TVs in some ways, but you get that contrast no matter how much light is in the room. HDR images on this TV look outstanding, and fortunately there's plenty of HDR and Dolby Vision content to enjoy these days. The TV also looks solid for SDR. I would just say that if you're viewing in a dark room, you might want to tone down the backlight a bit because the TV can almost look too bright in general. Not a terrible problem to have some headroom available though. Motion is also pretty good on this TV. It's got an excellent response time and it is also very bright, so you will get some stutter, which can be ironed out by using a minimal amount of motion smoothing. But for sports, movies, TV, whatever, the TV handles motion very well from what I've experienced. I think my one real complaint about this TV would be around some of the macro blocking I'm seeing with low bit depth content. I'd like the TV to clean that up a bit better. There are moments when I was watching YouTube and could see a lot of macro blocking in darker areas. Fortunately though, higher quality content doesn't suffer that, so your Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Blu-ray discs, they will all look pretty stellar. Oh, and surprisingly enough, this TV sounds pretty good. It's got a respectable amount of bass, dialogue is always very clear, and the treble isn't too harsh, though it does sparkle and has a good amount of high-end detail, so that's definitely a big bonus. As for gaming, this TV is extremely well suited. We connected our Xbox Series X, and actually I need to go into the picture settings and turn on enhanced HDMI mode, but once I did, we got all green check marks from the Xbox Series X. It's got a very low input lag in game mode, the HDR images leap off the screen, the shadow detail is solid since there's plenty of bit depth happening, and again, the motion looks solid as well. The U8G supports VRR and punches right up to 120 FPS thanks to a 120 Hz native panel. You only get two HDMI 2.1 ports, and one of them is the EARC port, but again, that's what we're seeing from almost every manufacturer except LG. So on balance, this TV excels for gamers. I think it's safe to say that this TV is definitely an overachiever. It's like the H9G, but better in most meaningful ways. The price for this tier of TV has gone up a bit, but you get performance for the premium that you pay. I think the value is very much there considering the U8G's performance. I'm looking forward to doing some comparisons in the coming months because right now, this TV is looking like it's going to be very hard to beat for the price. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. Do you know somebody who's in the market for a high-performance TV with a more reasonable price? If so, do me a favor and share this video with them because we want to help out as many people as we possibly can. Also, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and here's 2 other videos that I think you'll like.